Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Stefano, and I will be your host for today. So before getting right into this new webinar, we are going to be waiting just the usual minute so that we can give everyone a little time to join in. In the meantime, if you could just use the chat you've been given on the right side of your screen to let me know if you can hear me and if you can also see my screen just fine. Don't be shy. So let's see. Okay, I'm seeing audio okay, so I assume you can hear me correctly. You can see hello from Brazil, from Belgium, from Zambia, from Germany. Okay. I think we can wait just a few more seconds for everyone to tune on in on our streaming today. Everything okay? Okay. Let's see. Hello from Barcelona, from Ecuador, from Bulgaria. Okay, sound and video, okay. Will this be available afterwards? Yes, it will. So in case you miss any part of the current streaming, you can still catch up with us later. It should be available on our channel on YouTube. Okay, so I think we've done enough waiting. We can jump right into action. So, just like the title of the streaming states, we will be talking about tips and tricks on how to work better, faster, and of course more efficiently with the website X5. And today's presentation, for today's presentation, we will be using one of the latest templates that we just released, which is called Hero. You can see that right here. We will be using this template to show you, again, some of the tips and tricks we've prepared for you to teach you how to work in a more efficient way with the software. Before starting, just let me say that I guess it's likely that some of you, maybe those of you who are more used to working with your computer on a daily basis, you might already know some of these tricks I'm going to be talking about. But we still hope that you will be able to get something interesting for you out of this tutorial. So I think we can start. So I think it would be better if we took this step by step. So we can just start from step number 1, settings. So here we can go under general information, and we will be talking briefly about content language. So I guess most of you already made at least one website with the software. So you know that when you go to step number 1 under content language, you can select the default language for the project that you're building. Changing the default language essentially changes all of those default texts that the website is going to be placing onto your website. Let's say those parts that are kind of standard. It's not like you have to write the entire all of the texts that are present on your website. Some of those are pre-made and are configured right here under content language. So if I click on this icon here, you can see that this little window opens. You get a list of all of the languages that the software currently supports, as well as a very long list of default text that the software comes with pre-configured. So let's take a look at a quick example here. Let's go to map and let's open up the search page. So this page opens. You can see, for example, we have a list of all the products currently configured in our project. And we have this green button that says add. And normally you would click this button to add the product to the cart. Let's say we don't want this specific word to be used onto the button. To change something like this for the whole website, we can just go back to step number 1, general information, then clicking on the icon here. And then we can look for the word add in this case. We might have to, there. We might have to search a little bit inside the list because the word may actually appear more than one single time in the website. And then we reach the correct section, which is add, you can see right here. And the ID of the content is marked as cart add, which essentially means the text that is going to appear in the cart section on every buy button. So if I just click right here, so not in the ID content section, but on the language section, I can just change the word here, for example, to buy now. Then I can shut this window down and go back to our search page. It might take a while to load the page because it's actually refreshing the text on the entire website. And if we open up the search page right now, you should see that the text just changed. There we go. You can see that the text of the button just changed, and now it states buy now everywhere. Of course, this is not true for the e-commerce alone. You can see that you can change a great number of default texts. For example, the label for the fields on the e-commerce part. You can change stuff for the dynamic object if you're using the Pro version. You can change some of the messages that the contact form is showing the user when validating their input. You have text for the private area. There's really a lot of text you can change, and it's all done in this section right here. Also, keep in mind when you are changing stuff inside the content language section, that this will actually be true for any project in your software. So if I'm changing a specific label for this project right here, and then I move on to a different project, the text will be changed there as well. If I don't want this to happen, you actually have to click on this button here and add a new language to the software. It doesn't really matter if the new language is simply a duplicate of the original one with a few texts changed. But that is how you gotta do it if you plan on having different versions, let's say, of English on different projects on the same computer. So that being said, let's move to step number 1 again, but this time we'll go under the SEO section, and we will be talking about optimization. So you can see right here, you have a few optimization options, which we will be looking at right now. First one is image optimization, which is by default set under none, but you also have minimum, medium, maximum. So of course, this is a very helpful way to get a quick optimization for your images for the entire project, since you can just forget about worrying to optimize the images before inserting them into your project. You can just put in whatever kind of image you want, and by selecting the optimization here, the software will do the entire work for you. It will search for very big images and resize them to the correct size. It will perhaps reduce the quality of an image if the image size is just too big for an online website, and you have the control over the amount of optimization that you want right here. Also, keep in mind that optimizing the images will not have any effect on the original image you chose. This optimization will only be applied to, let's say, some kind of copy of the image which is used inside the software. So your original image won't be modified at all. You don't risk losing the original image you're using. No edit would be applied to it. This only refers to the images which will appear inside of the website. The same goes for this option right here, which is convert images into WebP format, which is this very modern format that essentially allows you to not lose as much quality image as most common optimization methods. but it will convert the image to a different format. So this means that the image will actually be duplicated, and the size that the project is taking on the computer will increase. That being said, once the website goes online, only the WebP format will be uploaded, of course, and you will immediately notice that all of the images weight less than their original counterpart, while preserving the same kind of quality. So this is a very great option to use, especially if your website maybe is very image intensive, very gallery intensive. You have a lot of images on a single page. This can help dramatically reduce the loading times of your pages, which of course result in a better SEO ranking for your website. The enable gzip compression is explained pretty much right down here, so I don't think it's necessary to really get into this much. And the enable file minification is just the same. This is like a backend optimization of some of the files that the software needs to generate for the website to work correctly. If you enable this right here, the files will just weight less. So there's generally really no reason not to use this option. Since it will have a positive impact on the loading times of the entire website. And again, this falls under the SEO aspect of your website. So with that out of the way, I think we can move on to step number 2, which is template. And we will be looking at a few shortcuts and hotkeys to edit your template structure and template content in a quicker way. Let's go into template structure first. So if you've applied any kind of edit to this section right here, you know that let's take the header, for example. You can just click on the header section so that the section changes right here too. And let's say I want to change like the color of this section to something different. It doesn't really matter if the color doesn't fit the template. In this case, let's pick yellow. You can see that the entire header now changed colors, just like I mentioned here. But if you have a responsive website, which I assume you do, and you try and modify one of the other breakpoints available for your website, you can see that the change I just applied only applied to the main breakpoint. So I would have to go to the other breakpoints and essentially do the same thing. So I have to click on header again, then go to color, select the same color so that I get the same result as before. Well, actually, there's a quicker way to do this, because assuming you didn't just modify the color, but perhaps you added an image file, perhaps you configure some kind of repeat option or alignment option, what you can do is also right-click on the section, then select Copy Section Properties. Then you can just move to a different breakpoint, right-click, paste section properties. And now in this case, only the color changed, of course, because that is the only modification that I applied. But if I had applied any other change to the header section, all of the differences will have been copied right away with a single click right here. But let's say maybe you modified not just the header, but you also wanted to apply a different color to the footer. So let's select another color like this one. Again, if you go down to the other breakpoints, you can easily see that the change wasn't applied anywhere. But you can right-click anywhere and just select Copy Structure Properties. By going to a different section right now and doing the same, you can see by pasting the entire structure, now everything aligned perfectly with the original breakpoint I got the configuration from. So this is very easy to do in case you don't really plan to apply like different kind of settings or colors to the different breakpoints, but maybe you just want to configure a single one and you plan on having all of the other breakpoints present the same kind of colors of structure. You can just right-click, copy structure properties, select a different breakpoint, paste structure properties. And it is a very, very quick way to get this done in the shortest amount of time possible. Now, moving on to the template content instead, let's take a look at a few things that it's very likely many of you already saw before. But first of all, if you click on the working area button right here, you can change the color of the background for your working space from light to dark. And this can be especially useful according to the color palette you've chosen for your website. Assuming I'm working with a website who perhaps already has a dark background and you're working with very white text, very white illustrations or decorations for the website, it can be especially useful to be able to change the background color so that you can see the objects you're putting in just fine. Again, in the working area section, this is, it's likely this part right here, it's something you might not have used that often, is the object placement, grid, and grid size. So the grid size essentially means this. When you are taking an object and moving it around the header right here, of course, this goes for the footer too, you can see that the image is like it's jumping of a certain predefined distance between movements. You can see that when I move the arrow, the cursor of my mouse, it's not exactly moving together with it, but it's like performing a very small jump, which according to this configuration here, it should be of about 10 pixels. This is something I can change. So if I increase the jump right here, you can see that the jump got much larger. It's now covering much more distance than before. Because this option right here is creating a sort of grid that allows you to more easily place the objects exactly where you want them to. Another important thing to notice here is that right down here, you have a few numbers that you can see are changing as I move the image around. So these numbers right here state the size of the object. But these numbers right here actually indicate, in pixels, of course, where the object is going to be placed. So if you just select the object and then use the arrow keys on your keyboard, you can actually move the object around with more precision than before. You can see that I can change it on a single pixel basis by using the arrows. And another trick you might not know is that if I'm holding down the left control key on my keyboard and then use the arrow keys again, the object is now moving according to the predefined grid size that we changed before. So if I increase this number right here and I do the same, so I select my image, I hold down the left control key, and then I use my arrows to move the object around, you can see that it's covering much more distance than before. So this can be especially helpful if you need to position your object in a very precise and in a very specific way. Last tip I got for you on this screen specifically, which some of you might not know, is that if I have more than one object that I want to move at the same time, so let's assume I want to move both the image and this menu right here, just a few pixels on the side, you can actually click anywhere on the checkered background here. You can drag the mouse until all of the objects are in this area I've just highlighted. And then you can do the same as we did before. So you can see I can move everything in the header of just a few pixels. Again, very, very useful if you need precision when placing objects in this section right here. So that being said, I think we can actually skip step number 3 for now. We might get back to that later, but let's go straight to step number 4. So actually, maybe we can just create a new page first. I'm going to show you something real quick before moving on to a page which already has some content inside. So a few things I want to talk about when checking the grid system of Website X5. First of all, and this is something which I just can't stress enough, and this is something that is usually also asked by our users to our technical team when they're having issues with this page loading pretty slowly in the software. So the number of cells you have in your page, of course, matters when the loading times of the software are concerned. The more data in a page, the longer the loading time of the software will be when it has to like recreate pages and calculate stuff and design the page. Yeah, stuff like that. But it's especially helpful to keep in mind that when you are adding new columns and new rows, you are going to get a number of empty cells just like these ones. Just like these ones, okay? Empty cells are one of the most problematic things when building your page in step number 4. Because when you are placing objects, just like I am on a page right now, the software's logic takes under consideration the objects that you have in the grid when calculating the sizes of the page when building the page. But if you have empty cells, these will actually make it so that the software takes a much longer time to load your page. So it's a very good practice, if possible, not to have any empty cells at all on your pages. Never leaves any cell empty on your page. If for any reason you actually have to leave an empty cell on your page, it's much better if you can just fill it up with an empty text object. Just doing something like this is perfectly fine. Just don't leave cells empty. Also, keep in mind that, let's say I want an object right here and then I want an object right here, because I'm thinking I want some space between the two. Well, this is not how you do it when you're working vertically. If you want to leave space between one object and another, you can either use margins or you can use the free object separator, simple separator. You put it right here, you open it up, and you specify the distance between the two elements. And this will create the vertical space you wanted between two objects. So again, if possible, do not leave any empty cell on the page, or you will see that the software will take a longer time to load when you're working on those specific pages. Let's go back just for a second. The other thing I wanted to show you on this empty page are these little arrows right here, which you might or might not have ever used. So you can see that those little arrows right here actually mark the position of where a column starts. So when you click on the Add Column button, a new column will be added to the page, of course. But as you can see, all of the columns have got pretty much the same size, because this is what the software will attempt to do. Every time you add a new column, the software will attempt to add this new column to the other ones which were already present, but keep all of them at the same width. With these arrows right here, what you can do is you can actually change the size of your columns. You can see I can just drag them around, make columns smaller. Let's say I want my main column right here to be bigger than the rest, and I want to place an image in here. I'm going to pick the first image I get. There we go. Now, if I click on preview to check the result, actually, wait, to make this even clearer, let's add a few smaller images right here. A couple of those should be enough. You can see that as far as width is concerned, this image takes up more space than the others. You can make this even bigger. You can see the image takes way more space up in the page than the other images. This is because the main column was made so much larger for design purposes. Let's say you've done something like this, and now you want to get back to a clean situation where all of the columns are the same size. You can just right-click on one of these arrows and click Reset Equal Columns Width. And there you have it. The page is back to its original size for its columns. So again, this can be very helpful if you perhaps need a very particular design on your page and you want to make certain sections of the website larger than the others. Also, this is page dependent. So if you want this on a single page while the other pages need to have a different design, when you do something like this on a page, the result will be limited to that page specifically. This will not apply to all of the other pages inside your project. That being said, another thing I wanted to show you, and let's change page for this one. Let's go to, let's see. Let's say this part right here. Yeah. Okay, let's launch the preview. Let's check out what this page looks like. Okay, so we have the button right here. So it's this section right here. You have your text, smaller text, and button. And then you have all of this space on the side. So let's assume you now want to duplicate this block of objects right here, down here. Since there is still no way to just copy all of the objects at one, let's say with one single click and put them right here, what you would normally do is perhaps click on this object, say copy, then click where you want to paste it, right click, paste. And then you can do the same for the other objects. But there are actually a few ways you can do this in a much quicker manner. So you can just click on the second object, and what you can do is hold down the left Control key on your keyboard, just like before, and then the key, better, the letter C. So you're pressing Control plus C. Then you go where you want to paste your object and press Control plus V. And you can see that the object gets copied and placed very, very quickly. We can do the same for all of these objects. Now that we are in this situation, we still have to make the objects as big. We need to make them take up as much space as the original ones were. What you will normally do is like click on the object, then select with your mouse one of these little white squares and drag the object to the desired size. What you might not know is that if you click any cell, first of all, and you just use the arrow keys on your keyboard, you can actually change cell. But what is even more important is that if you hold down the left Control key on the keyboard, and as you're holding it down, you use the arrow keys, you can actually move the object around. And this can be very helpful for placing the object quickly without ever having to take your hands off of the keyboard. So you can style your page without using the mouse, but by using the keyboard only. Also, let's say I need to make this object bigger, larger in this case. I can just hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, left Shift key, and then use the arrow keys again. And you can see that I can stretch the object to be larger. So you can see it takes a very short time to do this. If I were to use the mouse, I would have to select the first object, click and drag. Select, click and drag, select, click and drag. With this method right here, without ever having to use the mouse, but just keeping my hand on the keyboard, I just select the first object and then I go Shift, down, Shift, down, Shift. And there you have it. You've successfully reproduced the entire layout in just seconds. In this case, since we only have to duplicate this section right here, of course, it's probably going to be just as quick to do with your mouse. But assuming you have to duplicate an entire page made up of different sections, this is most certainly the best and more efficient way to get this done. This is not only true when you are copying the content, but this is also true when you want to apply some kind of effect or style to your cell. So let's take a look at this text right here, which is this object right here. Let's just say I want to style this cell and perhaps add like a color background. Let's make it light blue. Assuming wait, maybe let's do one more thing first. Let's also add an effect, like a fade-in effect, and then launch the preview. Okay, so now we get our new background and the fade-in effect. Let's say I want to replicate all of the style of the cell and the effect applied to it to this text as well. Normally, you would just click on the new object and go under Style and Effect again. But you can also just right-click on the original object and you have Effect, Copy, Effect, Paste. And you can do the same to the object style. Now that we've copied both the effects and the style of the cell to this other cell, we can just launch the preview. And you can see that both the effect and the color also applied to a different cell. Of course, now we're just applying very small, very minor changes to the style of the object. But assuming you want a very specific cell style to be used in more than one place, you can also go to the library section and click on Add. If you do this right here, the settings you've just configured for your cell will be stored inside the program. So if you ever need to use this cell style again on any other part of the project or any other project, you can just go back to this library and you will find that your style has been saved here to be applied very, very quickly, as you can do with all of the other default styles, which we already prepared right here. Again, a very, very quick way to get all of the objects and all of the cells styled in the quickest way possible. So that being said, let's move on to one specific object, since I wanted to show you something regarding images. This is something, again, you might not know, but especially when you purchase a template or maybe you're opening a project that you haven't really used in a long time, you may find that you have an image configured here to show. But let's say maybe you no longer have that image on your computer, or maybe you just have no idea where this image is located. You can actually just right-click on the image file field right here, and you can either remove the image, open the file location on your computer, which will show you where the images are being stored, which is very, very helpful if you need to look for the place where your images were originally. And you can also use Save As, which essentially allows you to export the image out of the project. So instead of putting images inside the project, you might want to take some of those out. This is the way to do it. Right-click on the image, Save As. And you can get any image you see in the project out onto your computer. Okay, so let's move on to a different topic. We can take a quick look at something regarding e-commerce now. So for this, let's go back for a moment to step number 1. So in this case, this project has some products configured, so this is the perfect project to show you this. There might be times where you want to apply a change to one or more products. So if you want to change something for one product, you can just highlight it and double click on it. This window will open up and you can just modify whatever you want. What perhaps you didn't know is that you can use the Shift or Control trick that we used before. So you just hold down the Control key and then select the products you want to change. Or you can just click one product, hold down the Shift key and click another product. and all of the products in between will be highlighted. And once you do this, you can just click on edit, and you can see that the window will appear slightly different, because now you have the chance of changing a few options for all of the products that you selected, instead of having to do those one by one. You can change stuff like the price, the VAT, the minimum order quantity. You can apply properties, you can apply details, you can apply discounts to more than one product at once. Let's say I wanna apply a discount of maybe 10%. Once you change something here, you can see that this option right here is also checked, which says apply the changes of this tab to all of the selected products. And if I click on OK, you can see that all of the products I selected now have a 10% discount. So this is, of course, again, a very, very quick way to apply changes to more than one product, instead of having to open them one by one by double clicking on each one of them. Regarding the e-commerce, let's move for a second back to step number 3, and let's open up the search page. Keep in mind that this is also true for the product catalog objects in step number 4. So I can show you I will show you this to you here, but keep in mind that it works for the other section too. So when you are customizing the card for your products, you probably know that you can just go under visible elements, click on this sphere right here, and you can just select the section of the card that you want to customize. What perhaps you did not know is that instead of selecting the option manually, because perhaps you really have no idea what option goes under where, you can just click on the section you need, like the name, category, description, the price, the button. You just click on the image right here, and the correct option will be highlighted automatically for you. Again, a very small but very intuitive way to get you right where you need to customize your project. So here today we're all about efficiency. This is why these little things matter when you have a lot of work to do and you need to understand what the quickest way to get that done is. This is what we're looking at today. Now, let's move to the preview section of the software. So the preview window that allows us to check what our final website is going to be looking like. This is the preview of the website. So let's take a look at this window and a few of the hidden options that you can use. So first of all, we have the edit this page right here. So what can happen sometimes? Perhaps you are checking a page and let's say I'm just checking the page right here and I see something I don't like. I don't like this text right here. I want to change it. How can I change this as quickly as possible? Well, there's actually 2 ways to do this. The first one would be to click on this button right here, edit this page. Once I click there, I will be automatically brought to the page where the object is present. So I can just double click on the object and change whatever I want right away. But another option you have is to click on this object right here, which is object edit mode, which is even smarter to use, because by clicking this, you can see that all elements of my website are now highlighted. So if I just go right to the object I want to change, which is this text right here, and I click, this time the software will automatically open up the page and the object I meant to change. So it's a very, very quick way to customize something in a specific section of the page as quickly as possible by having the software take me there automatically. This can be very, very helpful to quickly edit your website, especially when you are working on a very big project with a lot of content and a lot of different pages, which make it hard to find exactly where you placed something onto the page. You can also get the mobile preview, which is actually restricted to pro users only, which allows you to preview your website on your mobile phone, assuming both the mobile phone and the computer are on the same network. You just scan this QR code and you can take a quick peek at what your website would look like on a mobile phone. And then you also have this option right here, which is preview the website on another browser. Again, especially useful since it will allow you to show the preview of the website on any browser you have installed on your computer. Why is this useful? Because not all browsers operate the same way. So this right here is just a simulated browser inside WebSiteX5, but you might want to double check the final result on different browsers as well to make sure that all of your users get the same exact experience as anybody else, no matter the browser he is currently using. So a very useful functionality to keep in mind, especially once you are nearing the end of your project, to make sure that everything looks exactly just like you designed it, just like you planned it. So we are nearing the end of the webinar. A couple of few things we still need to take a look at. The first one would be Magic Text. We already had a whole webinar for Magic Text, but I'm still going to show you this thing right here to you, since perhaps you might never have used it yet. So Magic Text is essentially an integration of the AI technology in WebSiteX5. What this does is allow you to select what kind of content you're trying to get out of the AI. Let's say a title especially optimized for SEO, a paragraph, perhaps some ideas for a paragraph to write. It says what is important to mention in the text. You can just write whatever, and the AI will generate a title, a paragraph, according to what you wrote right here. What's important to know here is that the prompt you are giving the AI is actually not the only thing that the AI is going to be relying on when generating the response. The AI will also rely on the page title, page description, keyword tags that you configured for that specific page in step number 3. And it will also make use of the information you configured in settings under general information as your website title, description, and category. So if I'm building a website specifically on advertising right here, and I go back there, I select Magic Text, and I just ask it to create some text, maybe without even providing a prompt. The topic is going to be based on the website title and the category I've selected here. So very, very useful, especially for those situations where you don't really have time to write the text for your website, but you want something that looks professional in the quickest way possible. You can just let the software do this for you without having to worry about copywriting, about thinking what to write, about keeping in mind what the topic of the page is. Everything will be done completely in an automatic way. That being said, let's move on to the final section of the software, which is the export section in step number 5. What we will be looking at is the optimize the project section, which is a section which was released just recently in the most recent versions of the website. So older versions of WebSiteX5 might not have this section right here. What this does is show you exactly how much the project weighs, how much the resources used inside the project weight, as well as the backups. So when we're talking about linked resources, we're talking images, we're talking perhaps audio, we are talking videos, which of course over time might make the project very big in size. And what's even more important is that many times when you perhaps link some videos, some images to the projects, perhaps you're not even using them anymore. Maybe they were used in an older version of your website, but are no longer used in the current version. So this screen right here aims to help you get rid of this issue. With the export all project resources, what this does is essentially take all of the images, all of the videos, all of the PDF files, whatever external resource you might have linked to your project, it's going to be taken out of the project and placed inside a folder of your choosing. So you can have a full backup of any material you might have used in this specific project. The option right below deletes the resources that aren't linked to the project. This means perhaps any image or video which was once used in the project but no longer is, but is still inside the project, making it larger in size. This option right here will allow you to delete all of that unused content, potentially making the project much, much lighter. Keep in mind when you are using this function, there is something which might not be so easy to understand at first. But when let's say maybe you used one video in an older version of the project you're working on, and then after a few years you remove this video, and even by using this option, the video still isn't getting removed. This can be due to the fact that you have all the backups linked to your project. So it might be helpful to clean your backups for the project every now and then as well, because assuming your most recent version of the project is no longer using a video, but maybe that video was present in one of the older backups, the software still won't delete the video from the project. Because let's say one day you want to go back to the previous version of the backup, then you would need the video. And that's why the software won't delete that if the video is mentioned inside any of the older backups. So first of all, try to delete the resources that aren't linked to the project if you're noticing an increase in size for your project. If that still isn't changing, also be sure to remove the older backups so that the project is as light as it can be. I want to go back just a second because there's actually one last thing I wanted to show you, which I forgot about, which is copying and pasting text. Why am I talking about copying and pasting text? Because in many websites, especially maybe those websites which are more technical, maybe sometimes you have to copy entire paragraphs of text, maybe from another website, maybe from a PDF file, maybe from a Word file for that product specifically you're trying to insert into the website. So let's just open up website x5.com page on the screen for you to see. So you can see right here, let's say I want to go here and copy this text and I want to place it onto my project. If I do just that, you can see what happened here. So I use the Control-C plus Control-V technique to copy the text. And you can see that not only the text was copied, but also the color of the text. If the text was written in a particular font, which my project does not have inside of it, it could also show you an error right here. This is because when you are copying text from other sources, not just the text is copied over, but its style as well. There is actually a very smart way to avoid this, which is copying text. Again, you can use Control-C to copy text, but you can use Control plus Shift plus V to paste only the text onto your page. You can see right now that the text I copied, which was black and small before, it's now bigger and is also white and bold, just like the rest of the text on this text object, because only the text was copied over, but the style was actually inherited from the page of my project, which is likely what you want. You don't want to keep the style of the original text. You're likely to want your text to be styled just like the rest of the texts on your page. Okay, let's see. While I was talking, I was also taking a look at the chat to see if perhaps you had any questions about what I was explaining right now. I actually didn't see any. So I'm just assuming my explanation was 100% clear and everything I said was absolutely uh, like not confusing at all. I can see a question that says, "How about a seminar with a focus on security?" Well, I'm not really sure when the next webinar will be coming out, but every suggestion is, of course, welcome. So again, thank you for your suggestion. We will surely keep this under consideration for an upcoming webinar, since let's say, we're always looking for topics which we think might help the entire community work with our software in a better way. So if some of you think a focus on security might be helpful for your website, we will surely keep this under consideration for the future. So before shutting this webinar down, I would like to wait just a few more seconds to see if anybody has any kind of questions about any of them, any of the things, any of the tips and tricks I explained today. So maybe I can clarify some stuff that wasn't really clear to begin with. Let's see if you have any question at all. Again, don't be shy. Let's see. Yeah, again, I'm not seeing any question for the moment, so yeah, okay. Okay, I can see you're thanking me already. So yeah, again, I assume it has been pretty clear. Well, of course, that's great to hear. So yeah, I would like to close then this webinar today just by reminding you that perhaps you don't have any questions as of now. But should you have any question in the future, maybe even right after the webinar is finished, keep in mind that you can contact me or any of my colleagues through one of our many channels. You can message us via email to our official email, which is sales@incomedia.eu. Or you can also contact us via our official help center at helpcenter.websitex5.com. So yeah, me and my colleagues will always be available to help you with any questions you might have regarding the use of website X5. So again, thank you for joining me today. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope this was helpful for everyone, even those who maybe knew most of the tricks I've explained today. And that said, I wish you a good day and see you at our next webinar.